Breaking
news!
In the genetics world, it was recently discovered that there are 4 species of giraffe instead of the presumed 1.
Let's go to our field reporter, Alexis Pedro.
How many species of giraffes are there? 1? Actually, there are 4. Really? Yeah. How do you think this happened? Did they get separated? Well, different migration patterns caused them to get separated when different landforms were formed. This is Alexis Pedro reporting to you from the Omaha Zoo.
Thanks, Alexis.
To get a better understanding of how 4 species developed, let's go to Aubrey Zog, our traffic migration reporter. Aubrey?
Yes? If you will direct your attention to the screen, I will show you a short video of how the 4 species of giraffes happened. As you can see, at one point, there was only 1 species of giraffe, but as different groups of giraffes started to separate, rivers formed from geographical transformations, ice ages, and other factors. This prevented giraffes that had migrated from returning to other members of their population, as giraffes do not like to cross large bodies of water. Over time, the giraffes slowly moved farther and farther apart in opposite directions, eventually evolving into 4 different species: the reticulated, the southern, the Masani, and the northern. It is estimated that there are approximately 90,000 giraffes left in the world, and this number is considered to go down every year due to poaching and habitat loss. As of right now, the International Union of Conservation of Nature considers giraffe to be one species of least concern. However, it is estimated that about 3/4 of the giraffes in the wild are either southern giraffes or Masani giraffes. This leaves room for the other 2 species, the northern and the reticulated giraffe, to potentially gain better conservation efforts. Thank you. Back to you.
Thanks, Aubrey, for that wonderful visualization.
Now, we have a special guest, a giraffe expert who will enlighten us on the genes associated with this migration. Seth Strywise, who do we have here today?
Thanks, Becca. Today I have with me Brett Homey, a well-known expert in regards to all things giraffe. Brett, how do we know that these are different species of giraffes, and how did they get to that point?
Well, Seth, in order to understand how these giraffes got to the point of species differentiation, we first have to understand what caused the animals to be different. However, in order to know what their DNA actually contains, we first have to sequence it. For animals, this is commonly done through a process called shotgun sequencing. Shotgun sequencing is a process of randomly breaking down the DNA into small strands and then using dideoxynucleotides to figure out where all the nucleotide bases, adenine, guanine, cytosine, or thymine, that make up the organism's DNA are located. Computer programs then use the overlapping portions of these reads to determine the sequence of the DNA.
So why does the sequencing make a difference?
The sequence of DNA is actually very important, as the sequence is what is actually being used to form genes. In fact, the combination of adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, in whichever order to form a sequence, is essentially what a gene is. It's a sequence of nucleotides that code for a specific protein. Once you've figured out the proteins formed by the genes, you can then determine how the different genes and proteins interact with one another to form gene expression in a variety of phenotypes. Upon recreating the sequence of DNA, the difficulty mainly lies in determining which sequences are genes and therefore actually have an effect on the phenotype.
So how do the genes and gene expression make a difference for the species?
The structural difference is called a mutation, and despite what you might initially think, the term mutation does not automatically mean something bad. Consider one of these species of giraffe, for example. If upon migrating far away from their initial birthplace of the modern giraffe, a certain species entered an area where there was less water present than before, how would they adapt? One potential answer is in the age-old expression, survival of the fittest.
So how do we know that these are explicitly different species then?
These separate giraffe species could potentially interbreed amongst themselves when they come into contact with each other in the wild. However, based on the genetic differences present for every member of each species, they seem to not be interested in interbreeding with each other if/when they do come into contact with each other. Thus, it appears that they have forced reproductive isolation amongst themselves, at which point they may as well be considered separate species.
Well, we appreciate your time with us today, Mr. Homey, and we thank you for all the great information you have provided us. Back to you, studio.
Thanks, Brett, for that new understanding of how the gene differentiation developed these 4 separate species.
That's all for the 5 o'clock news. We hope to see you back here for the next genetic discovery. Signing off for KSU TV.